Okay, welcome to our first webinar of 2025. In this one, I'm going to be talking about open source. So what it means and what makes it great for libraries and archives. So open source actually means any computer system with publicly available source code. So that means it can be freely used, modified and shared. Here are some examples of widely used open source software, which aren't library related as such. That would be Firefox, Linux, and WordPress, and there are lots more too. But here in the library world, we have a range of open source software solutions to support, usually for LMS systems, discovery, repository systems, and archives. And the ones on the screen here are the ones that are kind of the most popularly used. The only one that we don't support from this list is Evergreen. The longest running open source library system in the world is Koha, and that was created in New Zealand, and it has its 25th anniversary this year. So why do we here at PTFS Europe only work with open source? Well, we have three core ethical values that support everything we do here. And those are to be economically responsible, environmentally conscious, and socially equitable. Open source, we think, is the best way to ensure we stick to those principles. There is no overinflation of costs with open source. We only are selling support and hosting for the product. We never own it. All our pricing is therefore open and fair and based on the size and activity of the service for hosting and support, be it a library, an archive, a government department. Open source shares code, and its worldwide community ensures there are no bloated programming that would start to impact who can use it. Some very famous proprietary codes, which I cannot mention, but whose initials might be MS, have very complex in comparison and require bigger servers to provide that responsive service. This also means that the servers that open source softwares can run on are smaller and use much less energy. This is important to us. We make a commitment to deletion of unnecessary code, setting up withdrawal and archiving data, and only using server providers that can prove their carbon neutrality. Our company is a net zero carbon, virtual from inception company, so it's important for us to stay that way. Finally, social equity. Open source ensures that individuals can access the benefits of the software and every update for free. We're very proud of being members of global communities that provide new developments for even that tiny library with no budget. We talked about our ethical values a bit more in depth in the blog articles that are available on our website. So other benefits for libraries in open source are many and varied. You are saving money on licensing. The community-driven development tends to be very swift in comparison with other proprietary software, and it comes via the consumers themselves sponsoring and requiring new features. The development costs can be shared across institutions. They can be sponsored, sometimes by an individual institution, but often shared out, so that each community member can help support what they would like to see by paying only a small amount. Support companies like ourselves also put aside budget to pay back our development time to the community. The customer portal can look unique. There is no fixed, this is what your users will see, which you can find with other proprietary software. We customize the portal for you as part of the implementation. And here are some lovely examples on this screen that show you how different it can look. You have much more freedom in integrating with other software. If it has an open API, we can connect it. There are no restrictions, example for what self-issue machine you can use, what reading list you can use, what discovery. All open source is agnostic. It does not care if you link up to other open source or some proprietary software. Many more translations, because open source is often global, it tends to have an active community of translations, and you never have to pay more to use those. The manuals are open and extensive and are edited and maintained by the community themselves, so out-of-date information is quickly found and updated. And community information and training. There is likely another community member who has always faced the same issue as yourself, so there are always a range of videos and guides and pre-done reports, for example, for you to utilize. So the question is, why don't more people go to open source? So there are still a few misconceptions, so I want to cover a few of those. The first misconception I want to cover is that it will cost you nothing. So, and that it's the cheapest solution always. At the basic level, yes, the software is always free. But even if you were to look after the system yourself, there are going to be costs involved. You have the server costs, and those could be a local server with upgrades regularly required, or you could have it cloud hosted somewhere. You will likely, if you're looking after it yourself, need some kind of in-house specialist, someone to migrate, develop, update, and support your software, and perhaps more than one to cover any absences. But many use a hosting and support companies such as ourselves. You won't have a software cost. You pay for migration, development, upgrade, support, and hosting as part of an annual agreement. All that being said, open source can be better value, especially against proprietary software, which will charge you per license or therefore per user. The next misconception is that it's less secure in some way, or that your IT department won't like it. So proprietary systems play into this fear often by using statistics like this, which are on the screen. Reported open source vulnerabilities have risen by 51%. What they don't explain is this is actually a very positive statistic, reported being the important word. This means that enough eyes are on the software to spot and fix vulnerabilities, and that the community is working well in sharing that knowledge and protecting users. It's a very good thing that should be encouraged. Open source projects often have a dedicated security team that works to identify and resolve vulnerabilities as soon as they are found. Additionally, the collaborative nature of open source development globally means that any security issues are quickly found and addressed by the community. Unlike proprietary software, there is never any pressure to hide any problems or security concerns. And when supported by a company such as ourselves, who are full Cyber Essentials Plus and ISO 27001 certification, you can rest easy knowing that the tech team is tracking your server for any suspicious activity, blocking bots, updating your security patches, and ensuring your system performance stays the best it can be. The next misconception is that you will need more expertise. This is only the case for completely in-house systems, where you need a systems developer or manager and the internal IT infrastructure to support that. But our company was actually created to bridge the gap between needing that in-house software expert or becoming one yourself and having no control at all with proprietary software. We're very aware that most libraries no longer have a large task-separated team that can include a systems librarian. So using open source with the support company is the best of both worlds solution. You are free to change your service settings, add new users, create new reports and notices, change how your OPAC or user portal looks and functions, get involved in community-wide developments yourself, but you are also free to rely totally on us to look after your system, or anything in between. This is another misconception, that it means that you can fully customize your preferences for what your system does and looks like. That is true to a point, but there is a reason most don't do that. The most customization that people do is in the look of their user portal. All our supported open source software has an update which is at least annual. If you customize so extensively, you face a broken system every time you update, which has to be customized back again to what you want it to look like. Or in many cases, this means that the upgrades just get put off until they are no longer supported by the community. And this leaves an even more daunting task when the time has to come around. Support companies such as ourselves are a great way to ensure upgrade pain does not happen. We track all your changes and make sure anything we develop is suitable to be shared back to the community, meaning your adaptation will be in the future version too. Another common misconception is that it's quite unusual to use it, or that you have to be a bit weird or hippie to use open source. But 76% of code bases use open source, and that was a couple of years ago now. It will be more. And you do use open source every day. So the ones listed there, Microsoft, Google, IBM, Amazon, Netflix, all have open source code to make them work. Interestingly, a large proportion of code in proprietary library systems that you would otherwise buy are open source originally too. They've used that code, but they don't advertise it. The UK government are so confident that open source is the future and provides the best value to the public that they always prefer open source systems over proprietary ones in tenders. This is another example of why it is not a kind of obscure choice. This is for Koha on its own, the LMS system. And this was as of 2024. It's a very conservative estimate as well, because this is only the ones that have put themselves on the global libraries list. There will be thousands more individual people and tiny libraries that use Koha. Certainly not an unusual choice. So the open source systems that we support, such as Aspen, Koha, Viewfind, and Metabase, all have global active communities of users. This is also quite different to proprietary systems in that the community drive and sponsor all the development of the systems. So the communities themselves are made up of individual people, software developers, our sorts of companies' employees, and our sorts of companies' customers. So there's always lots of activity and support that you can get involved with as much as you like. This includes annual conferences, and these can be all across the world, webinars, open discussions, videos. Both individuals and support companies such as ourselves have an active community customer support, such as how-to videos, training guides, and ways to promote your own wish lists for development. There are portals online to chat to others, post concerns and bugs. For example, the Koha has a Mattermost site, and there are shared bug fixing and development portals such as GitHub and Bugzilla. Being open source means you can actually get to see what is happening and being focused on in your chosen system. The user groups can be regional or by library sector, for example. And as mentioned before, there are always helpful repositories of shared system knowledge, such as reports and guides. So this is an example of our an example portal. So I'm just going to escape and show you the Koha dashboard. So I hope you can see that it has swapped for you. So this is the community dashboard for Koha. In here you can see all the developments and bugs that are being looked at, how far along it is progressing, who actually raised the bug, and basically whether there's any issues with trying to push it through. Now, don't be worried that it mentioned bugs a lot. Enhancements and developments are also called bugs in this system. And then I'm going to show you the Aspen Help Centre. So the Aspen Help pages, because again, it's open source and the whole community actually inputs to this, is fantastically detailed. It's like a manual, but with all the training materials and videos embedded in. So I'm going to go back to my presentation, hopefully. So finally, the beauty is if you choose open source software and choose a support and hosting provider, if you are ever unhappy with the service that you are getting, you can take your open source system to a completely other host and support company without ever having to change systems again. So your staff can keep using the systems they love, and that is not something that is usually available to you with other library systems. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you found it useful. Please get in touch using the methods showing on the screen if you'd like to chat about how we can support and host your chosen open source software. Thank you.